They called them miracle deals, fully furnished New York apartments for less than $500 a month. In a city where rats pay higher rent, the listings seemed like typing errors, but they weren't. And the people who moved into them, well, not all of them are still here to talk about it. Elliot Vaughn was the first to sound the alarm. A data analyst who had lost his job during the recession, he was desperate for a place to stay. The ad was simple: studio apartment in Soho, fully furnished, quiet neighbors, no background check. He moved in the next day. At first, everything seemed normal. The apartment was small but clean, oddly cold though. The heating was always on, but Elliot noticed he could see his breath even in the shower. The neighbors were dead silent. Never a footstep, never a door creaking. It was as if the entire floor belonged to him. Then came the knocking. Every night at 2:14 a.m., someone or something knocked on his door. 3 short taps, then silence. When Elliot opened the door, the hallway was always empty, but the smell of old wood and copper, like blood, lingered. One night, Elliot set up a motion camera facing the hallway. He didn't tell anyone what he found. He just disappeared. When the landlord was called, he said, that unit hasn't been occupied since 1997. The apartment was sealed off the next day. But Elliot wasn't the only one. Over the next 7 months, 9 more people moved into miracle price apartments in different boroughs: Chinatown, East Harlem, Queens. Each unit had identical layouts. Each tenant received the exact same brochure: low noise, low cost, low profile. And each one reported the same phenomena before vanishing: the knocking, the cold, the silence, and the mirrors. Yes, the mirrors. In every one of these apartments, the bathroom mirror was bolted into the wall with industrial-grade metal. Tenants who attempted to remove it were warned by the building manager, always a different person, always with the same dull smile: that's not for you to see. One survivor, Lucia Ramos, managed to escape her apartment in Bushwick. She was hospitalized after being found wandering the Williamsburg Bridge barefoot, muttering phrases in an unknown language. When her brother visited, she only repeated one sentence over and over: "It lives behind the glass, and now it knows my name." Lucia was institutionalized. Days later, the hospital's security cameras showed her standing motionless in front of a mirror for over 6 hours. When nurses finally broke in, she had carved 3 perfect circles into her face, one on her forehead and one on each cheek, mimicking the same pattern found etched into the back of the bathroom mirrors from the so-called miracle apartments. Investigators eventually connected the dots. All the cheap apartments were registered under the same shell corporation, Nouveau Reflect LLC, a real estate subsidiary of a defunct mirror manufacturing company called Malthus Glassworks, which closed in 1963 after multiple worker deaths due to unexplained psychological breakdowns. According to archived records, Malthus Glassworks specialized in producing non-refractive mirrors, surfaces that absorb light instead of reflecting it. The blueprints included strange annotations written in Latin and a forgotten dialect of Gaelic, mentioning terms like portae animarum and locus inter oculos, gates of souls, and the place between the eyes. After a former employee leaked photographs of these blueprints to a paranormal researcher, the images went viral. Reddit threads exploded. Urban explorers broke into one of the sealed apartments in the Bronx and live-streamed what they found: a mirror removed from the wall, revealing not pipes or bricks, but a second windowless room behind it, perfectly square, with no entrance and one object inside: a decayed mattress soaked in what looked like old blood. The live stream cut out after viewers reported hearing strange clicking sounds and distorted whispers through the audio. No one has heard from those explorers since. City officials declined to comment, but quietly, all 10 apartments were permanently shuttered. The buildings remain standing, but their windows are always dark. Local kids say they can still hear knocking if they press their ears to the front doors at night. And now, something even stranger. Identical mirror installations have begun appearing in luxury condos across Manhattan. When questioned, developers claimed the design was retro chic and inspired by mid-century modern aesthetics. But a maintenance worker on one of those job sites submitted a resignation letter with just one sentence: "There's something in the glass, and it smiles back too long." The apartments are still available. Dirt cheap, quiet neighbors, no background check, no mirrors allowed inside. But every wall reflects, eventually, reflects, Sam wasn't looking for a home, he was looking for his sister. Lucia Ramos had been gone for 3 months when Sam took matters into his own hands. The hospital refused updates. The NYPD claimed she had voluntarily checked herself out. But Sam knew his sister. She'd never leave without her sketchbook. And he found it, tucked behind a heating vent in her old apartment. Every page filled with chaotic scribbles, spirals, concentric circles, eyes without pupils. And one phrase repeated again and again in shaky handwriting, underneath the mirror, underneath the mirror. The building manager tried to block his entry, but Sam pushed his way in. Apartment 6B was cold, not just winter cold, tomb cold. The air carried a static hum, like a broken frequency hanging just below human hearing. Dust coated everything, and the light bulbs had all shattered inward. But the mirror remained. A rectangular slab of darkened glass bolted tight. Sam tapped it. No echo, no reflection either. Only a vague sense of depth, like peering into an endless hallway. He couldn't shake the feeling that something on the other side had just taken one slow step forward. That night, he returned with a crowbar. It took hours to loosen the bolts. With each twist, the room grew colder. His breath froze midair. His vision swam, but he kept going until the final bolt clanged to the floor. And then, silence. The mirror didn't fall. It sank, like melting through the wall itself. Behind it was no drywall, no pipes, just blackness. A space too dark and too quiet to be real. He leaned in, and something breathed back. Tommy didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in curses, rituals, or things that go bump in the night. He believed in math, in logic, in science. That's why, when he found an apartment in Manhattan's Upper West Side listed for $300 a month, he didn't think too good to be true. He thought, statistical outlier. The building was old, pre-war, 4 stories tall, nestled between 2 modern high-rises like a relic trying to be forgotten. The landlord was polite but distant. No background checks, no credit score questions. He just smiled and said, "You'll be in 3A. Most don't stay long." Tommy took it as a joke. He shouldn't have. The first 2 nights passed without issue. The radiator hissed like an angry cat, and the floorboards creaked if he stepped too hard. But New York was full of old buildings. He slept with white noise and took notes on everything, just in case. But on the 3rd night, his math fell apart. He was working late on a machine learning model when he heard a knock on the window. Strange, he was on the 3rd floor, and there was no balcony. He approached slowly. No one was there. Just a smear on the glass. 3 long finger marks dragging downward. He opened the window, leaned out, and nearly vomited. Etched into the brick just below the sill, hidden from view unless one leaned over, were hundreds of carvings, names. Names scratched deep with something metallic, names and dates. Some were nearly 80 years old. He took photos, compared handwriting. The writing matched, a single hand across decades. The next day, Tommy asked the landlord about it. The man's expression didn't change, but his smile tightened. "They all wrote their names when it started," he said. "It helps them remember who they are before the mirrors take it." Tommy froze. What mirrors? But the landlord was already walking away. Back in his unit, Tommy turned all his mirrors to face the wall, just in case. He knew about the urban legends, the Reddit posts, the stories of Sam and Lucia. He thought they were fiction wrapped in paranoia. He wasn't laughing anymore. That night, he heard voices in the vents, whispers, speaking math. He recorded them. When he played it back, the audio translated itself. Numbers, patterns, binary code forming words. You are the data, we are the loop. His laptop began to glitch. Not crash, glitch. It showed images he hadn't taken. Photos of him sleeping. From angles impossible unless someone had stood directly above him. He tore the computer apart. Then the mirrors returned. The ones he'd turned to the wall? They were upright again. Centered. Perfectly clean. His reflection smiled at him, even when he wasn't smiling back. He covered them with sheets. The sheets fell off in the night. Sheets